Only as I can't see myself.
Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And good afternoon and welcome to this special edition of Showtime TV. I have very special guests, a look at politics in 2020, episode 7. And I just had this beautiful lady who's just got reelected to the city council at large, Maria Cabrera. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Omar. Thank you for having me. I know we've done some work in the past, and
Oh yeah,
I'm
yeah.
always excited to join you. Thank you for and keeping the community informed and
Right.
for continuing to do it via, Zoom and virtually, which is what people
Oh
have to
yeah,
do now
yes, yeah,
to be
yeah, yeah.
safe.
Definitely. Okay, so for those who may not know you, if you just want to give a brief introduction to who you are, what's your occupation, and then you served on council before. Why did you decide to come back?
Well, I mean, Omar, when I didn't leave council to leave council, I left council to run for mayor 4 years
Right,
ago because I felt
right.
very passionate that the voices of the women, the voices of the mothers in Wilmington, who are really the ones dealing with a lot of what's happening with the pandemic of the gun violence. The mothers are the ones who are burying their sons and daughters, now more daughters than sons, and the ones that are out here struggling. So I always just felt that you need a woman's perspective. And yes, the other candidates and we may have spoken about a lot of things, but our approaches were a little different. I felt that I brought that common sense that a woman brings to the table. And, I realized that maybe the odds were pretty slim to none that I was going to win, but it wasn't about winning, Omar. It was about having a platform to get your voice out there. And that same platform is not afforded to you when you were a council member, even if you're a council member at large. Yes, I
Right.
got out there in the community. I spoke to people. The news journal liked to interview me. I did television shows, but it's different. Not everybody's paying attention. And I was very passionate about that. I knew that I was sacrificing. I had everything to lose and it probably nothing to gain, because look at the last 4 years. They have been quite tumultuous in Wilmington. And every time I turn around, I say, wow, I'm glad I wasn't elected mayor, because it's a lot to deal with.
Yeah,
And Omar,
definitely.
people think too that elected officials somehow are going to fix all the problems, that they should fix them, that, oh, the politicians don't do anything. But in reality, ask me, what is it that I can possibly do to stop a young man from taking a gun and retaliating another one because they're beefing? The most
Right.
we can do is try to get to the root of the problem, where there's conflict resolution, where just saying something bad about somebody isn't a reason to take a life. And that gets to the root of the problems, what's going on in our society, with
Right.
education, with support in the households, with poverty, with equitable access to opportunities, income, and education, because that's the only way you can really rise above the poverty level. And even now, people are still having a hard time getting jobs with the pandemic, more so than ever. So how do we stop this vicious cycle?
Right. So what do you do professionally? You have your own business, right?
Well, I actually have always had my own business in
Okay.
communications, outreach, community. Community outreach has really been the strongest forte that I have, because what I bring to the table, no one else can bring, because it's my personal relationships that I'm able to connect people with. I call myself a professional connector. So when I bring people together, then those projects grow from there, but I'm the one who brings them to the table. But what I have been doing, Omar, for the last 4 years is I was still working as a federal navigator, signing
Okay.
people up for the Affordable Care. So I did do that during the time I was a councilwoman. So that really opened my eyes to the inequities in the healthcare system, and making sure that people had equitable access to healthcare. That is the number one issue right now in this presidential election in our country, with a pandemic where people realize, if we get sick with this virus, we have to have health care. But I knew that with Trump getting in office, that this program, and he hated anything that Obama did, was not going to last. So sure enough, the funding got cut from Delaware. So I was no longer a navigator, but I was smart enough to think ahead, and I got my health insurance license. So I'm still enrolling people in the exchange, just as myself, Maria Cabrera, and I did start an agency, Complete Benefits Group, with associates who are also former navigators. And I'm also helping seniors with Medicare and with AFLAC, which I think more people, especially people in lower income brackets, should know about, because it's a great protection if you do have a health event. But most importantly, my daughter, who's a nurse, started a home healthcare company 7 years ago, and she brought me on board to help her. And I eventually became the administrator, HR. I do it all, but I've cut back a little bit because of the campaign and because I am transitioning to my business. So that's what I've been doing, helping people get home care for the
Right.
last few years and healthcare.
Right. I interviewed several other people that were running for city council. So I'm going to ask you some of the same questions that I asked them in terms of the issues. So what I want to first deal with, you kind of touched on it a little bit briefly, is public safety. Went to the barbershop yesterday. I was talking to my barber, and he said that he had went to someone's house that lives in Newark to cut his hair because simply he does not want to come into the city of Wilmington. And there's quite a few other people who will say, look, man, I'm not going to the city of Wilmington. It's too dangerous. It's too violent. So in terms of public safety, as a city council at large, what is your platform in terms of ensuring that the residents of city of Wilmington, that the city can be a better safe, can be safe?
Well, all across the board, I did rant on equal treatment, equal opportunities, and equal justice. So when we look at the whole justice system, it is broken. You know, people are not treated the same depending on what you look like. I think that just incarcerating people, see, you look at a correctional center, right? I was just I went to the Second Chance Farm on Friday for lunch, and I met the people that were there, and they're all re-entering citizens, and started talking to them and Mr. Adjett, who's running the program there. So that's a perfect example that people who are re-entering society have an opportunity to work and make a living and get health care, and then they're going to get private health care and benefits after 4 months of being there. So the system is broken. First, when I say let's get to the root of the problem, these young men and women, these teenagers, because they're so young, they're literally babies picking up guns and shooting each other.
Right.
Look at our educational system in Delaware. We already know that that's flawed. So on a state level, federal and state level, Delaware and Wilmington specifically needs the resources so that our Black and brown children and our special needs children, which include children with ADHD and children who live in distressed environments and children who witness killings and shootings on their block, should have the resources right within the school system. One, to be able to learn safely, to have food. At least that was addressed with some of the free meals, making breakfast and lunch available to them. A lot of our children are learning on it hungry, on an empty stomach. So if you're giving these kids an opportunity by going to school, if you're not kicking them out every time that there's a disciplinary issue, and our children get kicked out at a higher level than the other children who come from different backgrounds for the same offense. So it starts right there in the school system where you're throwing them out in the street. What happens when they have nothing to do? And how about when they turn 16? My son, because of COVID, has not been able to work since he turned 16. And that was his biggest excitement, that he can get out into the workforce and really get a job on his own. And what he was doing got cut short because of the pandemic. So now they're out here, they're being offered other alternatives and other opportunities. So Omar, when we really talk about what do these young people in Wilmington have to engage in? We just fixed up William Hicks Anderson. We have the Powell Center. Kingswood has been doing a phenomenal job over there. But the Y and all these things are now currently shut down. But even then, we need to do more to get these kids off these streets and give them something to do. But I went deeper than that when I ran for mayor. I said, you know, I looked at the women, being a single mom myself and understanding my challenges, and that they're nothing compared to these other women, but sometimes they are similar. But I look at the children in these homes, just from the example of my own son's friends, when they have a mother who is living in dysfunction, maybe they have addiction issues, maybe they're living through abuse, the boyfriend was beating them, or a husband, they're raising 3 or 4 babies, they're living in poverty, the women are self-medicating because they feel so awful. So I looked at, we have these broken moms raising broken children, and I don't say that offensively, because we all have broken pieces that we need to heal. So I'm thinking, if we went right to the heart of the home, to the homes, and healed the moms, that we could start. If we save one life, it's one more life. And if that life doesn't get out there in the street and take a life, that's another life, Omar. So as small as it seems, my thinking is that we have to start one at a time. And there's so many ones out there. The other thing that I really support, that I'm hoping to really sit down with the mayor and his administration to speak about, is that I like that idea of interrupting the next shooting. This is something that Pastor D was doing. This is something that Ian Smith, who ran in the 6th district, is doing. He does it on his own. You get to these kids, they're either they're members of gangs or they're doing this independently, and before while they're beefing, you have to squash it. You got to stop it, because they're just talking crap about each other, is what I'm being told by the teenagers. So they go out there and shoot because you said something about me and you disrespected me. I'm like, what are you talking about? People back in the day used to fight, fist fighting. And so those are the things with public safety that I'm concerned about, getting to the root of the problem. And with public safety, we cannot ignore that we should have community-led public safety initiatives. That means the community is engaged and involved with the police. I do believe there should be a citizens review board. I see the relationships that our police officers have been building, and I'm hoping that this whole movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, hasn't really severed it here in Wilmington, because I still see the officers out there playing ball with the community. But that trust has to be earned, and I believe that that's important if we're going to move ahead, that we police differently, that people feel that they're in a partnership with the police, that they're not being oppressed.
Right. Yeah, so you sound like you're talking about prevention, and that's an excellent idea, is to prevent these things from happening. And you get, like I said, you got to be proactive. So I agree with 100%.
And we got to keep them from going back to jail. So when you're in the corrections facility, let's take it another level. Why aren't we doing more to rehabilitate people? Why aren't we teaching them something while they're in jail versus sitting around with all this free time? They're already there. You have a captive audience. Have them get their GEDs. Some of them, I was just talking to the young man that there was a program that they only allowed 40 people to get into this college program out of 5,000 inmates. So how do you get chosen to get your college degree if there's only 4 slots? You understand? So while you have a captive audience, let's do more with the correction facility besides cashing a check, getting a paycheck because people are incarcerated, and let's rehabilitate people while they're in there. Let's make sure that the mindset is changed and that the patterns of addiction, because we know that addiction is one of the reasons why people end up in jail. So why don't we get to that root of that problem, so when people come back into society, they can be productive members of society, and let's not judge them so harshly and give them a second chance, because that's hypocrisy if we don't allow people to have a second chance, which is why I love that Second Chance Farm, because not only does it have it in the name, but it's giving them a job, and they're creating food, which is overcoming another issue that we have in Wilmington, and that's a food desert.
Right. Like you just mentioned addiction. I work in the mental health field, well, actually mental health / addiction field, outpatient mental health program. A lot of programs here in Wilmington, the state of Delaware, are state funded or privately owned. I'm going to ask you a question that I asked Justin Wright when he ran for mayor here on Zoom and Facebook Live. Do you think that the city of Wilmington has a role in dealing with the addiction of substance abuse and mental health? Do you think they should have programs as the state and private agencies does?
Well, I mean, you got to look at the city's budget, and I'm going to be quite honest with you, Omar. We're going to be looking at a deficit in the sense that I am not a fan of the parking revenues that come in, because I feel that some of our behaviors are quite predatory. And as most people might not know, that I just had seven votes. It's the first time on council that I didn't have unanimous support from my council colleagues, but I did introduce a statute of limitation on those parking tickets, so that if you, for whatever reason, didn't even know you had a parking ticket, you moved out and you came back 10 years later, they don't boot you because you have 7 years. They have 7 years to catch up with you. But it does generate income. It does generate revenue. I'm also very much opposed to the $40 price tag on that. But right now, when you're looking at a fiscal responsibility and a shortfall, we have to find ways either to cut. We're going to have to cut some things out of the budget. And the first thing that goes are these social programs, because our job as a city is really to provide the infrastructure that people need to live in the city. Your public safety, your trash pickup, those kind of things, your public works. There's been miles and miles of street repairs that have taken place. If people haven't noticed, those potholes in your block may have been gone now. And I live right here, borderline West Center City, so we can't say that it only happened in the nice neighborhoods. It's happening in all the neighborhoods and throughout the city. So let's give credit where credit is due. But I think the city can have a greater role to be supportive. And most recently, I believe the number is 1.5 million. I could be wrong, but the mayor just gave funding to all these nonprofit organizations to assist them to making sure that people do not become homeless during the pandemic. So
Okay.
those social service agencies or nonprofit agencies that are working directly with the community are getting support from the city right now during this pandemic so that people don't lose their homes. And now we have a bigger problem, a homeless problem, because people don't have jobs and they're not able to pay their bills and they're barely surviving and
Right.
barely eating. So in the middle of all this, people say, what more can the city do to provide those programs, to put funding for those programs? I think there's things that we can do. We can collaborate. We have applied for funding from the federal government. And how about my colleague Hanifa Shabazz, when she had the CDC come in to study what's going on in Wilmington? Because this is just, it's different here. It's not like in other cities. We're too small to have this going on. So those are the kind of things that my council colleagues and the mayor and others can do proactively, is to advocate and tap into the resources that exist. Can we individually provide those services? I don't believe we can. I don't believe we have the capacity, and we certainly don't have it now if we didn't have it then. But we do have centers like the William Hicks Anderson Center that is funded through the city. So people can't say that the city's not putting money out there. Can we do more? I always believe that people can do more and can do better.
Right, right. Now, I'm not sure if you addressed this when you was on council before, but driving to the cities, particularly on the east side and certain parts of the north side, I see way too many boarded up homes here in the city of Wilmington. Have you ever put any legislation out or agenda out?
Oh, now you just went down my alley.
Okay.
When we all get elected, and this was my first time getting elected to office, because people have been trying to get me to run forever and a day, and it was finally Senator Margaret Rose Henry and my friend Nancy Lopez who twisted my arms enough to do this. Senator Henry said, "Maria, just run. You've done the work. People know you. It's not like you're new to this. Why not do the work with the title, which gives you more authority and power to get things done?" So I did. I ran and I won against all odds. I feel this election was very similar to that one 8 years ago. No money, no signs, and no time, but we still made it, right? So listen, I went in there with my ideas of the things that I was going to work on. But then every time there was a shooting, I'll never forget, the first shooting was in January, and I was so excited about being on council. And when that first young man's life was gone, I was so depressed. I cried for half a day. I stayed in bed. I felt powerless. But then I realized I can't be powerless. People are looking to me to lead. So the first thing I did was I started going to every location of every shooting, Omar. So yes, I was like a vigilante on the other side. The police know, because they would see me. I would come up to them, "What happened here?" And I would start looking at the surroundings. Omar, I would say, and I don't have exact, calculations, but I'm just going off the top of my head, that at 95% of the shootings that took place in the city of Wilmington, they all occurred around, in front, or within 300 feet of a vacant property, multiple vacant properties. When you go to the east side, you'll see there was just corridors. Bennett Street. You don't hear about shootings on Bennett Street anymore. Why? Because Sacred Heart 2, which I happen to be on the board of, just built senior housing and low-income housing there. So I said, okay, vacants are a problem. The second common denominator, not always, but a high occurrence, was the liquor stores. And the third was that problematic corner store, less of, but still present. And then you had your other shootings. So I started looking at the vacant properties and the corner properties, these corner stores. A lot of people know that I've spoken about 8th and Monroe, because I live here on the west side, and I drive past there and I saw that it was problematic. It was dirty. The paint was coming off. There was trash. There was trash right next door in a lot, a mattress, furniture. And those people still run their business and make money off the community, and they do nothing to clean up their spot. And there was always loitering and trash. So when the city told me that as long as they pay their fines for for whatever fines they get for nuisance properties and everything else, that they can't shut them down. So I went to the state, and that's when Bill Biden was the attorney general, and I worked with his lieutenant deputy generals. Dan Logan was one of them. And we busted that liquor store on December 10th. I'll never forget. And they had to get their act together. Drive past there now. It's starting to pick up a little bit, but it's nothing like it was before. Now we have issues at 7th and Monroe. My philosophy was, if you can shut down one corner, you got the rest of the block back. And why did I pick that corner? One, it wasn't my neighborhood. I drove past it, but I saw that people on that block were growing roses, that they were cleaning up their sidewalks every single day. I knew that people cared on that block, so somebody needed to help them. In terms of legislation, Omar, this is what I did. The nuisance properties already existed. But who does the nuisance property hold accountable? The owner of the property. So who's getting the fines? The landlord. Now the landlord can come after the tenant and say, oh, you did this and you did that. Is it going to stop the bad behavior? No. And then if you try to evict the person, usually the law is on the side of the tenant more so than the landlord. So, and I'm not saying throw people out on the street, but dang, if you live in a block and you moved into that block and you're bringing down the block, I hold the landlords accountable too, because you actually have, hands down, you have the power of what happens in a block by the people you rent and you bring into. But let's say that they made a good impression and you rented to them. Now what happens when they start acting up? Or maybe mom is working and the kids are acting up. So I came up with the disorderly premises legislation, co-sponsored by my colleague, Bud Friel, who sponsored the nuisance properties. And that holds the actual people engaged in bad behavior accountable. So we're not just talking about the vacants. We're talking about the vacants. We're talking about the rentals. We're talking about behavior that we can't change. But if you can't act right on this block, you can't live here. So this is something that the police gives them a citation and they have to go to court. So it's not just a slap on the hand. There is accountability for people's behavior that goes along with the nuisance properties. And the vacant properties, I do like the programs that are out here, and I'm understanding that we're bringing back the homestead program, where we have already. I'm sorry that I'm not up to date on that, but I have been running an agency and taking care of a sick mother the last few months. But that homestead program, where people can buy a home for a minimal amount, $1 or whatever, as long as they're going to be a homeowner, just like with the land bank, you're a homeowner. A lot of people keep saying that the developers are going to come in and buy these properties, make them expensive, and gentrify the neighborhood. That's not what I see going on. And as a councilwoman, what I'm going to continue to support is that when we fix up these vacant properties, they're not being sold to investors. They're being sold to people who are going to live there for a minimum of 5 years. And we need to start putting some of our Wilmington police in those properties so that we can have a cop on the block again, because that's what we need.
Okay. You mentioned earlier about job losses. With this pandemic going on, there's a lot of businesses closed. People lost their jobs. Economic plan. Did you have an economic plan?
Well, an economic plan. So one of the other things that I was part of my platform is work for the reentry population, and just in general, because you don't have to wait to go to jail and then come out to be able to get support. They're the people that are getting the least amount of support. So we find that that's a very high unemployment rate there, because people don't want to hire ex-offenders. So I look at workforce development and training. And some of the points that I brought up is we got to think outside of the box, Omar. Okay.
Right.
Face it. We lost our blue collar jobs. We lost GM. We lost Chrysler. So
Right.
how do we bring jobs back that people in the community can do? But let's not limit our community by saying the only kind of job that you can do is labor. Yes, labor is easy. You don't need to go to college for it. But that's not the only kind of jobs that are out there. One, there's green jobs out there. If we start switching over to more green alternatives, but let's train people, let's teach them, and let's educate them so that they can go out there and do the jobs. And what are the jobs of the future, Omar? It's in technology, it's in innovations, it's in startups. So one of the things they made us, we had to do these questionnaires for the News Journal and for 411.org for the vote. People should go to that and read my position on that, because it really breaks it down to where we need to focus our attention for job creation. We have to teach our young people the technology that exists, and they can learn it very quickly. And yes, we can still teach old dogs new tricks. So if we start switching around our mindset on the kind of jobs, the jobs of the future, biometrics, all these kind of things, we can draw those kind of companies into Wilmington, because we have, number one, our location is so ideal for people to be able to travel to get in and out of Delaware. So to have these new innovations, to have these different jobs in technology and science and everything that's going on, and getting our workforce developed, train them to be able to do these jobs. We shouldn't have to be bringing people in from outside when we have a workforce right here. And then there's other jobs, which the mayor did tap into this time around. One of the things I campaigned on is our streets are dirty. People are not taking care. So let's start by maybe giving people jobs and paying them to keep our neighborhoods clean. Let's start on different levels. How about gardening, the Second Chance Farm? They're already doing it. They're giving people jobs. They're teaching them how to garden. I mean, these things are on a small scale, Omar, but they grow. And with the Trump administration's people, Barr and Carson, coming to see this farm, they're getting all kinds of phone calls. Texas, Michigan, all these other states want to have a success story like they have, well, like we have here in Wilmington. And that entailed people like Councilwoman Xanthia Oliver changing rules and the laws in Wilmington, because we didn't allow farming in Wilmington. So that had to be changed in order to have farming. So we have to be more creative and make sure that we are teaching and educating the current people and our young people to go into the jobs of the future. That's the only way we can do this, because the jobs just aren't here anymore, Omar. They're just not.
Right, right. And I want to talk about city council for a moment. I've often, well, here and there, I tune in and watch some of the meetings, and I attended some of the meetings in person. Not a lot, but maybe a handful. Man, I see so much disruptions. Man, it was very nasty at times. Just watching those city council meetings, I seen personal attacks. I seen name calling. I seen a divided council. So you're coming back. So how will you go about working with the council in terms of having an effective relationship where things can get done?
Well, Omar, first of all, I didn't even notice, I didn't even realize this till I started counting. Do you realize that this is a historic council? We have 10 women. There's only 2 men on that council.
Oh, well, I didn't notice
Latrice Chicago and Chris Johnson.
Right,
So
right.
this is very historical. And I served on a historical council when we had the most women elected to council.
Wait,
So
there's another gentleman who won the 8th district, right? Buzzfield
oh yes,
district.
yes.
Yeah,
The 8th district. I'm sorry.
I
I
forgot his
left
name.
Nathan out. Nathan is going to be part of
Yeah,
our. Okay, there's 3 men. Thank
you're right.
goodness, because we got to balance out all these hormones that we're going to have on council, all the estrogen. But let me tell you this, okay? And I've been asked this question over and over again.
Okay.
I think about the current council. Individually, every single one of those people that I know that I've worked with, and there's a couple people I didn't know very well, Rashima and McCoy, Yolanda McCoy, but individually, I know those people. I've worked with them. At some point or the other, our lives have crossed and interacted, because I did work with Mayor Sills for 6 years, and I've been working in the community, and I've been on over 30 boards and committees. So how do you not interact and work with people? Of course I've worked with them, and I serve with some of them. So I feel that individually, all of them in their own right are community leaders. They've done good work out here in the community. We cannot argue that. That's irrefutable. But people came in there with a mindset of what they wanted to see. The president came in with a mindset, the very first president of council, to actually hold a retreat so that all the council members can learn the council rules, know the charter, so that when we're sitting on that floor, we're making decisions based on the charter and the law and what's within our limitations of what we can do versus what we don't have the power to do. So for me, I don't know if it was a clash of personalities, the power play, the male versus the female, but I am not going to be involved in any of that nonsense. I don't think we're going to have that nonsense. It was upsetting to watch. It was painful, to be quite honest. I felt so bad because I sat on that council and Wilmington was becoming as toxic as Congress. So I'm like, how does this happen in a small city when we all know each other? I think there was a lot of disrespect back and forth. And I'm not going to say there was one side over the other or choose this one or the thems and the us. It can't be like that. We cannot have a divided council. It cannot be issues of men and the women, and the black and the white, and the ones who have money and the ones who do not. We are here serving the people. And I believe that it was a disservice to the people of Wilmington when city council could not do their job and push legislation forward that was important and crucial. And if you're just fighting to fight, Give me a reason why you're fighting. Give me a reason why you're voting present. Give me a reason why you're voting positive or negative. Don't just sit there casting a vote just because you're not letting me know as your colleague, and you're certainly not letting me know as your constituent, because that's what I was this last 4 years, a constituent. Don't sit there playing these games. So that's not happening, because I'm not having it. And I don't believe that Trippy's going to have it. I believe he's going to get up there and lead and realize the responsibility of being the president of council and bringing us together. And we've already communicated. He was very gracious to call me and congratulate me. And I said, Trippy, I think we just need to work. First thing we got to do is we got to unite the council. We got to work together.
Right. And so speaking of the council, I believe that there's 8 districts. I live in the 1st district, and I always wanted to know, in terms of the city council at large, what exactly is your role? Because is your role, like, if I can't get in contact with my immediate council person, that I call someone at large? What exactly is a council at large? Just for
I'm not going to call anybody out, okay? But I felt that when
Right.
I was city councilwoman at large, and I came in with an agenda of things that I wanted to get done. So as an at-large council person, you probably have more time to work on more issues because you're not doing that immediate constituent services, because
Okay.
it's the pecking order. Who do you call first? You call your council person for that district, and then so on and so on. But I also educated the people of Wilmington multiple times on the floor and when I was out in the community to let them know that they had six council members that represent them. You have your district council member, you have your 4 at-large council members, and you have the president. Those are the 6 people you need to contact when you have a problem. Reach out to all of them. And that doesn't mean you can't reach out to the others either. You can reach out to the whole body of council. But really, the person who is the first line of communication is your current district council person. So the at-large, I represent everybody in the city, and I represented everybody in the city, and I represented people in 2 specific districts where the councilmen did not return phone calls or show up to meetings, and I will not call them out publicly.
Okay.
But I resent that I couldn't work on the issues that I was working on because I had to do more hands-on constituent services. And I'm not saying that it bothered me, because I love the people in those districts and they love me, and they obviously showed that at the polls when they voted for me, because I came in the #1 vote getter in both those districts. So obviously they saw me as their council member. But no, I think that if you get elected to this office, we all have the same responsibilities. We all get the same things that you get. There's no reason why one person should be working harder than the other. And I know that individuals have their daytime jobs, but it's a disservice when you're not serving the people that elected you in, and you're not working on the issues with your colleagues and with others to get it done. Because now more than ever with this pandemic, we don't have time to play people. People are congratulating me, saying they're happy for me. I said, don't be happy for me, because I am walking into a what show. So be happy for the people of Wilmington that they got me, at least, who's going to work hard. I can't promise you that I'm going to turn it all upside down, but I'm going to work hard. That's what you're going to know about Maria Cabrera. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to fight for you. I mean, I may not be able to get it all done, but I'm going to fight for you.
You gotta stand up.
It won't be for lack of trying, that's for sure.
Right. We touched a little bit on early on women in politics. I remember interviewing you on Channel 28 4 years ago when you were running for mayor. And at that same time, Miss Hillary Clinton was running for the president of the United States of America. So here we are 4 years later. You won your seat in terms of city council at large. And then you have Kamala Harris, who's first woman of color who may possibly be the vice president. And then we just had the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice. If you want to speak on those 2 ladies and what influence do they have towards you in terms of being a woman in politics?
Well, forget about being a woman in politics, just being a woman. And
Right.
the things that Ruth Bader Ginsburg fought for. I was reading today just 5, like simple points. She fought for us to be able to get a mortgage on our own without having to have a man co-sign it. She fought for us to be able to have our own rights over our bodies, to choose whether we, want to have a family, not have a family, to be able to work in higher positions and to be treated as equals, to be able to have a bank account without a cosigner. I mean, these are things that we take for granted. And I really honestly did not know until I'm reading more about the things that she fought and advocated for. Just think, it's that simple. That women were not able to get a bank account or get a mortgage without having a male cosigner or a husband. I mean, that's ludicrous. Think of all the women out here that are on their own making it happen. We shouldn't have to be married. A man should not be the financial plan. I always tell people, a man's not a financial plan. A man is a partner, someone that you share, love and children, and if you choose to have children, and your life with. So no, I mean, those are things that she did. But more importantly, she stood for people who did not have a voice. She stood for people of color. She stood for equality. She stood for people who had different preferences, for the LGBT community, LGBTQ community. You look at all the people in society that have been disfranchised and have been thrown off into the sidelines, basically saying, you are not the perfect people and you're unacceptable. And our government wasn't accepting them either. So these are the things that she fought for. So I think it's a huge loss to us that this happened. And I am dreading the days to come, because this president and this, not forget the president, this Mitch McConnell and this Congress, the way that they treated Obama, when he had every right, with 1 year left of his presidency, to choose a Supreme Court justice and was denied that. And you're trying to get somebody in there with less than, the 2 months for an election, literally. I'm not looking forward to this, not at all. And when Hillary ran, for whatever reason, and I do believe that a lot of it was the negativity on social media, people painted her to be such a horrible person, and they didn't realize, because when I asked them, what is it that you hate so much about her? What is it that she did? Oh, well, they could never give me a good reason. All I want you is give me a reason, because she was married to Bill. Wasn't he one of our greatest presidents, like him or not? Did we not have a balanced budget when he was president? When you look at the jobs, 23 million jobs is what Bill Clinton created, because I just saw the ad that Biden put out as to what each president created in terms of jobs. Right. Trump didn't create any jobs. He's living off whatever. Listen, Obama inherited a recession, had to overcome the recession and started the economy back up again. This guy walks in there, the economy is still rising, and he gets all the credit for it. Yeah, he did some things that help the people, the affluent, and it might trickle down to the rest of us. But listen, look at the harm that he's done. He's done more harm than good, unfortunately, not to get political on the presidential side. But I do hope that people look at this election with eyes wide open, stop believing everything that you read on social media. Do your research. That was not done. This election was hacked, and Hillary was made to be the villain, and it's our electoral system. That's why she's in there. Let's not forget that she had 3 million more people in this country who wanted her as president. So let's not get it twisted, folks. I know that the system worked in your favor this time. That's not going to happen the second time.
And do you have any thoughts on Kamala Harris?
Kamala Harris, imagine. I mean, I think that she is going to energize the base the way that Obama did. Hillary just didn't energize them, even though she had done everything she's done for women and people of color. And Clinton was seen as the first Black president. I read this book about how they saw him and his mindset and what he did for the Black community. I feel that our Black and brown communities, including the Latinos, sat home and decided that she was demonized, that they weren't going to come out to vote. But now with Kamala in there, I mean, she is dynamic, she's intelligent, she's well-spoken. There was a lot of women out there that could have easily been chosen as VPs. My favorite was Stacey Abrams. I think she's phenomenal with what she's doing. But a lot of those women have earned their right to be there. And Kamala is the woman that Joe Biden chose, because chemistry is important too. People think that they didn't get along because she came at him, but that's a debate. That's what people do. You have to be able to have differences. The most important thing is overcoming those differences. You don't have to be best friends, but respect, and they respect each other. So I think that they're a dynamic team, and Kamala is going to bring the energy to this campaign. It's going to energize the base, and more people are going to come out, and the women are going to come out. Our first vice president, female vice president, that's historical. So I think we want to be on the right side of history. So I'm very excited about Kamala being there.
Right. You know, Mary, one of the things that I admire you the most was this happened this year. You lost your mother during the time that you were running for your campaign. So how were you able to be strong enough to continue to run for your campaign, you know, with the death of your mother? 'Cause I lost my mother last year. So I know it's one of the most disappointing, depressing things ever. Yeah, how was you able to have faith? But you held on, you had faith.
Well, I'm almost thankful for the campaign, and now that the campaign is over,
Mhm.
um, I should be very ecstatic and happy and celebrating, but I've actually been crying.
All right.
That's the one thing that I didn't do since I lost my mom, and I need the time to grieve. I mean, everybody has to go through it, right? And I'm sorry to do this publicly, but
You're
that's all
fine.
I've been thinking about. That now that I've won, now that I'm not in my busy mode, because I'm one of those busy people. That's how I overcome negative things. When I see that something bad happens, I'm not one of those dwellers. I don't dwell on the negative. Like
Right.
something terrible happens, boom. I just said, okay, how can we fix this? I'm a fixer. So I just felt that, okay, I did my duty as a daughter. My mother was sent home with end-stage renal disease, April 30th. I was going to announce my campaign in the right after taxes. I didn't want people to be busy with taxes, so I said April 16th, April 17th, I'm announcing my run. The pandemic hit. We couldn't do anything public, so I'm trying to figure, okay, how do we do this by not doing it publicly? Then I said, let me wait because the focus can't be on me. So then I said, okay, let's go forward now with my team. We'll do it virtually. Boom. Then the protest hit. Again, the focus cannot be on Maria Cabrera. It's got to be what's happening now. We got to activate, and people have to come together on what's happening currently in our nation. So then that happened, and then I said, finally, I said, oh, the heck with it. I'll just run my campaign after I pay my fee. So the Monday before, which was the 14th, before signing up and paying my fee, I talked to mom. She was excited about me running. My mother was very political, and people that have heard me speak about her have picked up on that. I tell them she was an activist. I mean, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. I learned things about my mother after her death that I did not know while I was researching to write her obituary, because my mother did so much that I could not leave. She just couldn't leave without people recognizing what she did. So I learned from one of her friends that she confronted the KKK in Westchester. I'm researching now to get a copy of that newspaper where she made the front page. So here you have a Puerto Rican woman who came to this country with a fourth grade education, didn't speak English fluently, even though she understood it and was reluctant to speak it. She confronted the KKK in Westchester, PA, made the paper, and I believe that march didn't go forth. Then she confronted the police when they shot a Hispanic man going into the ambulance, which the community witnessed and thought that it was a wrongful shooting. So what do we have going on in our country now? I said, my mom was Black Lives Matter before the movement was started. And I look at our value system, because a lot of people say, well, you're Latina, the Latinos. I love my Latinos. I'm Puerto Rican and I'm proud of it. And my people support me and they're happy to have someone representing them. But when I go to my mother's room, my mother's bedroom was a reflection of our family and our values. And this is why I'm so connected to the African American community. When you go to my mother's room, you would see a big picture of Martin Luther King, one of those old felt pictures. Martin was in the room. Then you go to the side. When I went to the inauguration for Obama, there was a calendar that I got her with Michelle and Obama. So that was in her room. And then she had Michael Jackson. We had to top it off with Michael. And then she had a Buddha, and she had an Indian, and then she had, the Catholic Virgin, the Virgen de Guadalupe, or the Virgen of Caridad, of charity. So that was my mother's value system. And that's how she raised us. We just embraced all people. And of course, having grown up in Westchester, being the only Hispanic female in a class of all Caucasians with 2 African Americans, obviously I'm also tied into the Caucasian community. I forget about the races and all that stuff. That's not who I am. I am Maria Cabrera. I'm for all people. I reach out to make people feel included. I recently took on an Indo-American client, and I'm like telling them about my experiences with the Indian community, the events, the festivals, the things that I supported in their culture, bringing them to the Grand Opera House, the things that we did with First Night connected me with the Asian community in Wilmington and beyond. So I feel that I am a councilwoman for all people. So getting back to your original question, I'm a strong woman. My mother's a strong woman. She wanted me to do this. I'm sorry she won't be at my inauguration. Our family took really good care of her. We gave her 11 weeks of quality of life versus the 2 weeks that they thought that she had. She transitioned peacefully. I gave her a kick butt funeral outside under tents so that we could get all her people. 150 people attended because that's how bad my mother was. And she had 3 great speakers, and the mayor of Westchester gave her a proclamation, and my own city council colleague sent a proclamation. And my mother did live in Wilmington for 3 years with me. So I am at rest and I'm at peace because I think they call it a preparatory grief. The whole time that I knew that my mom was going to pass, I kind of grieved during that time. So I might grieve a little bit now, because I do get emotional. But my mother is a fighter. She was a strong woman. My mother would want me to get out there and fight and just support my community and do what she did in her community and what I'm doing over here. So I got to continue my mother's legacy. So I'm good. My mother passing away is only going to make me a stronger councilwoman, not weak. And there's no reason why we can't mourn the people that we love. And and you know what? And it took a lot out of me, I will admit, because most people would quit. So that does say a lot for me to come back after burying my mother with very little time to get out there and campaign. I don't want people to think that I took for granted this race, because some people were commenting they didn't know because they didn't see me out there what was going on in my life. So thank you for bringing that up, because I want people to know you didn't see me because I was taking care of my personal family. Now we got to go back and take care of her affairs. I'm not crazy about that, but I'm going to do that next week because I know it's going to be emotional. But look at it this way, Omar, for a woman who wasn't out there because of COVID pandemic and taking care of my mom and then dealing with the passing of my mom, to have been the #1 vote getter in the council at large race, I'm a bit shocked, but it shows that the people of Wilmington know me. They know that they have a good leader in me. They know that they can trust me, and that's what I ran in. Proven and trusted leadership. And I like to think that some of them love me, that we are connected because I love them. And I feel that warmth and love when I'm out there, especially with my seniors and my young people. So that's a really good feeling to know that your community supports you. It is a good feeling.
Right. Okay. So we have about 3 minutes left. So any closing comments that you'd like to give to those who are watching in terms of getting out there and getting the work done? It's all you for about 3 minutes, whatever you want to say.
Okay. Well, first of all, listen, we got November 3rd. So please make sure you get out to vote, because that election is more important than anything else. And when you see me out there campaigning harder than I did at the primary, don't ask me why, because I think it's important to energize. Don't tell me that, oh, you already got your seat, you don't need to campaign. No, I'm going to campaign even harder, because my signs finally did come in on the day of the election. I even had to deal with that. I had to deal with delays with FedEx and UPS. Dude, I don't even want to get into it. It was such a nightmare, but I proved that you can win an election without campaigns.
First place.
They're pretty solid. Listen, no one got to steal it because they weren't out there. But listen, we didn't talk about the young people. I really want to see us do a better job with our young people. I have this idea called Generation Connect. I've been out there talking to the seniors because I do the Medicare, and they're sitting there bored and they want something to do. And a lot of them say, give us jobs too, because we might be old, but we're not dead. So I want to really engage more of our young people with our seniors and let them be their role models, because sometimes mom can't do it or dad, they're working, they're out there to survive. And they told me that they've already taken a couple young people under their wing, and they're helping them out. And those young people said, we didn't have anybody, we don't have mentors, we don't have a dad, this is what's going on at home. So I want to see more of that happening, because we really got to do better by our seniors and by our young people. So now my challenge is to you, the community. I will say to you what I said 8 years ago when I got elected as councilwoman. Come to the meetings. You have to be part of the process. If you are not part of the process, if you do not get engaged, if you don't come out to those, even the committee meetings, because a lot of decisions are made in committee meetings that go to the council floor for a vote, and then you don't know what we're voting on. If you do not get engaged, you don't know what we're doing, then you have no right to complain. Because these things affect you. The primary affects you because most of the leaders that you voted in the primary are going to be your leaders. They're going to get voted in the general. So shame on you if you didn't participate September 15th. But we need you November 3rd. So I say to the community, Be my partner in hand. I'm here to represent you and to support you, but don't leave me out here by myself high and dry. You have to show up. You have to have my back on that floor when I'm introducing legislation that's going to benefit you. We have to show up to community meetings when we're able to do that. And if it means getting on them with your phone, everybody knows how to use a phone. I see you all on Facebook, so there's no reason why you can't zoom in and participate in a meeting. Get engaged on a state level and a federal level, because decisions are being made and they're not even behind closed doors. They're being made without you participating and having a voice in them. Things that affect your children, your livelihood, your jobs, and your environment. And please, let's not forget the environment. I know we got a lot going on, but we are getting poisoned every day in this city. So we have to do better with the environment. So these are the things that I promise to work on and work hard, because that's the only promise I make when I run for office, that I'm going to work hard, because anything can happen. I can tell you that I'm going to do this and then I'm not able to do it. So you're not going to find Maria Cabrera is not a liar, but I will work hard. That you can guarantee on. So call me, hit me up, call my number, come to the meetings. I am accessible, people. I am accessible. I may not be able to call you that very moment, but I'll call you within 48 hours, I promise. And then my hands will be filled, because I'm still doing my insurance business and helping my daughter with her agency. But I am here for you, and you can count on me. So please be part of the process.
Okay, on that note, we're ending today's program. Once again, I'd like to congratulate you and much success. You're a strong woman, and I know you're going to do your thing there.
Omar, thank you for the opportunity.
Okay.
And I'm on channel 28 at 9 p.m. Today. And if I didn't say thank you to the voters, I just want you to know that I thank you. I wholeheartedly thank you. I thank the people that helped get me here, that all the colleagues, everyone that was out there giving out my information, because I could not have done this without them. The mayor, everybody. I'm looking forward to working together with everyone.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Okay. And thank you, audience, for tuning in. God bless. Thank you, Maria. Take care.
Bye-bye.